Fostex is an audio company that wears many hats. They're an OEM provider for companies like Sennheiser, Denon, and Apple, and they produce their own audio components like speakers and headphones as well. And today we've got a brand new release from them, or relatively new. It's the Fostex TH808, which is actually using trickle down technology from the TH909, which people love. But this one's coming in at $12.99, so it's got a much more approachable price tag. So it's kind of setting up a bridge between mid-fi and total top of the line in the Fostex product line. So with that, we're going to jump into the TH808. We're going to talk about sound. We're going to talk about its technology that it gets from the TH909 and as well as its build. And I'm excited to get into it. So let's just jump right on in. In the box, you get the TH808 headphones, a cable that terminates in a 1/4-inch gold-plated stereo standard plug, a leather pouch, and an owner's manual. So the first thing you'll notice with the TH808 is its premium build. The star of the show is the black walnut wood that you've got on the ear cups, and this is simply a looker. I mean, I'm a sucker for wood headphones, and this one is really nice with the black walnut, as I said, and those kind of layered grills. I just think it looks really nice. But using that as well as some technology, which we'll get into in a little bit from the TH909, this looks to mix form with function. So the wood that's there is meant to be part of the acoustic tuning of the headphone as well. Of course, the TH808 isn't all wood. It's also got aluminum etched parts, such as the yokes that connect the ear cups to the headband. I think overall the build quality between the wood and the aluminum parts are really nice. The only thing I might have to say about it is that as I'll demonstrate here, the swivel is just a little bit loose. As you can see here, the swivel and rotation is just, I could use a little bit more resistance there, I think. Of course, the TH808 also comes with that 7N grade cable that terminates in a 1/4-inch connector. And it also has rhodium plating on the connectors that connect to the headphone. And this will just help with wear as you plug and unplug this cable over time. It weighs in at 370 grams, which is relatively light, and that combined with the leather pads and headband make for a very comfortable headphone, very light. I was able to wear this for hours without taking them off. The focal point of the TH808 is its 50mm neodymium magnet driver, also known as Fostex's Biodyna diaphragm. Now, you might recognize that driver from the TH909, and that's what I was alluding to earlier with that trickle-down tech from the TH909. Now, there are some tuning differences, so I wouldn't just assume this is a cheaper TH909. It has its own sound identity, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But it is interesting to see that tech kind of come down from the top of the top and go into this entry to the top end of their lineup. The headphone has a 25 ohm impedance as well as a 96 dB per milliwatt SPL. I found it pretty easy to drive. I was using a dongle to get it going. I think you could use it out of a phone or a computer without too much amplification, but I found that to really get the bass going and the dynamics going, it needed a little bit of juice. Now, getting into sound impressions and starting with the bass, I think the first thing people will think of with Fostex is a bass cannon type of headphone. And the TH808, even though it gets its drivers from the TH909, doesn't exactly go for that type of bass sound. I would call this bass nimble. It's fast, it's punchy, but it doesn't have that low-end heft that can cause a little bit too much quantity in the bass region. It's a high quality, but maybe not the highest quantity bass. That said, there is a nice mid-bass bloom, which keeps things grounded in the bass area. So you're not getting that deep extension that you might expect from Fostex, but you are getting a really well-rounded and nuanced bass response. But what I found the most impressive about this low end is the separation in the low end. I think I talk about Dreams by Fleetwood Mac like all the time on this channel, so don't call me out for that down below, or do. But I find that track to be really good for parsing out bass parts between the bass guitar and the kick drum and kind of everything that's going on in that song. And I found the separation to be really, really well done. Now, the mid range is really interesting to me. I think it was probably neutral, leaning warm. But given the soundstage, which we'll get to at the end of the sound impressions, there's almost a cool type of approach to the mid range. Now, how can it be warm and cool at the same time? I think there's a distance in the mid range that causes this to feel a little bit lean to me. And that was apparent on Jackson Brown's These Days. I thought the guitar sounds were really nice and well layered and separated, but the vocals were just a little bit too lean for me. I also think that part of this coolness comes from an upper mid range spike that I heard on female vocals, like on Joni Mitchell's Carrie. Things got a little bit shouty in that upper mid range region to me. When there were a lot of vocal layers, things just became a little bit shrill to me. And again, I think this ultimately adds up to a warm but lean sound. That said, if you like that sense of distance, so if that's the type of mid range you like, it's something that I hear on Dan Clark headphones. It's definitely popular, that sound. It's just maybe not for me. But if you're into that type of sound, I think you'll really like this. Finally, I thought the treble section was maybe my favorite part of this headphone. It's relaxed, it's not too forward, which I like. I'm not a treble head. It's a little bit too smooth at times, but I really found the treble to float really nicely over that mid range. It's gentle, but it has a nice sense of splash to it. Cymbals have plenty of headroom to keep things from getting shrill. And just overall, no sibilance ever detected. And that to me is a great sign of a very great treble response. I also think that because of that upper mid range spike where a lot of the detail is, it takes pressure off of the treble to be too forward in presenting detail. And that ultimately leads to a more pleasing sounding treble response. So even to my ears, there is pros and cons to that elevated upper mid range. Finally, getting to soundstage, I think it's pretty wide and really roomy, and there's plenty of room for these details that I've been talking about. I think there's a lot of like nooks and crannies in the imaging. It's really cool. So you'll definitely get a nice sense of space, and that's where you do want to scale it with an amplifier to really maximize the details you're getting and that sense of space that you want to get. So definitely these scale well and can get you pretty far in soundstage and detail retrieval. So overall, I think that the TH808 is a really nice addition to the Fostex line. They were able to create a bridge between their mid-fi products and their top-of-the-line products, trickle down some of their high-end technology while giving it a unique sound signature of its own. Overall, really well done by Fostex. If you like a really open-sounding but warm headphone, this is definitely a great place to start. So that's my review of the Fostex TH808. Let me know what you think down below and like and subscribe to this channel for more reviews like it. Thank you for watching.